I was halfway through scrubbing the stainless steel counter when my dad walked over with his arms crossed, looking like he had something important to say. "You're not gonna like this," he started, and I already knew it was bad. He only opened with that when something was about to get ripped out from under me. "What?" I asked, not even stopping the scrub. He cleared his throat. "The truck's gonna go to your brother." I stopped, just stood there with the sponge dripping dirty water into the sink. "What the hell are you talking about?" He shrugged like it was no big deal. "He's got a family to feed." "This was never just yours, Maddie. We all talked about it being a family investment number. That wasn't how it went. I bought the truck. With my savings, I found it on Craigslist, drove out to Lubbock, paid cash. I picked out every damn piece: griddle, fridge, shelving, signage. I was working weekends at Costco and scraping together enough to get it inspected. And now he was saying it wasn't mine? Before we get further, quick note. Before listening, share which city or country you're watching from. I looked over at my mom, who had been pretending to straighten a stack of napkins. "Tell him he's joking." She flinched, looked up, then gave me this soft, pitying look. "He's not. Your brother's in a tougher spot right now. You'll be okay, sweetie. You always are. You said I could park it here. You said you'd help me register it." "We did," she said, like that made it better. "We helped? You got the business license, the logo, the name. But he's got bills. Kids, I couldn't even speak. My throat felt like it locked up. I looked around at the truck, my truck, with the fresh paint job, the logo I designed, the laminated menu hanging by the window. I could still smell the vinyl glue from when I reupholstered the booth seat last week. I just nodded once, didn't cry, didn't scream. Then I stepped down from the back of the truck, walked past them both, and headed to my car. Didn't take anything with me, not even my apron. Just turned the key and drove off. I didn't answer their calls, not a single one. First it was my mom, texting me pictures of the grandkids like nothing happened. Then my dad called, left a voicemail that started with, "Listen, I think there's been a misunderstanding." Nope, no misunderstanding. I got the message loud and clear when he handed over my food truck like it was his to give away. I shut them out. I wasn't going to play the good daughter who just takes the hit and smiles through it. That was done. What they didn't see, what they never really saw, was how much I put into that truck. Every Friday night for 5 months, I was online comparing commercial grills and ventilation systems, making sure I could meet Texas food safety codes. I did it all legally, filed the LLC, got liability insurance, pulled the mobile vending permit, sat through 2 boring-ass city inspections. Every single receipt had my name on it. Even the logo, Maddie's Melt Stop, was trademarked under my own damn name. And toward the end, when it was finally coming together, my dad suddenly wanted in. Said he'd found someone to finish out the electrical and water lines, a buddy of his from work. I told him I already had quotes from licensed installers. I'd saved up for it. "Why pay double when my guy'll do it for a couple $100, he said, like that was just being smart. "You're too uptight, Maddie." This isn't a hospital OR. I should have fought harder. But I didn't want to argue. I was exhausted. I just wanted to open the window and hand someone a grilled cheese for once. And now, it was out of my hands. Let them run it. Let them figure it out. I walked away with nothing. No refund, no thank you, not even a damn sandwich. But at least I walked away with my name. A week later, I was scrolling through job boards when my phone buzzed. Voicemail from my mom. "Hey honey, it's me. Listen, there's a few issues with the truck. The fridge isn't keeping temp and the power keeps going out when we run the lights and the griddle. Also, there's some water leaking near the prep sink. We just need to talk, okay? Call me back when you can." I played it twice. She sounded stressed. Yeah, but not sorry. Not one word about what they did. Just straight to, "We need to talk." Like I was still on the hook. I deleted the voicemail and shut my phone off for the night. Let them fix it. Let them call the buddy. The next morning, I turned my phone back on and the notifications started piling in like a bad storm. 5 missed calls, 3 voicemails, 2 texts from my mom, 1 from my dad, and a bunch of unknown numbers I didn't even bother checking. I put it off for most of the day, cleaned out my fridge, did laundry, watched half an episode of something dumb before I gave in, and sat on the edge of my bed, phone in hand, ready to finally listen. First voicemail, Mom again. Her voice was tight, not panicked, but close. "Hi, honey. Just checking in. Your brother's trying to get the truck going again, but the power won't stay on. The fridge cuts out every couple hours and the water pump keeps sputtering. We really need your help, okay? Just call me second voicemail. Shorter, annoyed. Maddie, this is getting serious. He's already spent money on ingredients twice and had to toss it. The griddle won't even heat evenly. This isn't a joke. Then came Dad. You need to call me back. That was it. No explanation. Just that tone. That sharp, clipped edge he always used when he felt disrespected. A few hours later, he tried again. If you messed something up on purpose, just say it. No one's mad, but you need to own it. I laughed out loud. Own it? I waited a few minutes before calling him back. I wasn't angry anymore. I was just done. He picked up on the second ring. Finally, he said, like I owed him something. I didn't waste time. I didn't mess anything up. I did everything by the book until you brought in your handyman. If it's falling apart, that's on you. He went quiet for a second, then, don't talk to me like I'm the enemy. I was trying to help. You're not the only one who put time into that thing. I stayed calm. I paid for the truck. I registered it. I handled the permits. You're the one who cheaped out on the wiring and plumbing. So call your guy. His voice dropped, got all cold. You really think you can just walk away? You can't abandon your family over something this small. That word hit like a punch in the throat. I looked at the floor and breathed in once before I spoke. I gave you everything. My time, my money, my trust. I'm done. He started to say something else, but I didn't stick around to hear it. I hung up, tossed the phone on the bed, and stood up. My hands were steady. My chest wasn't tight anymore. They could drown in their own mess. Not even 2 days later, my cousin Jenna messaged me on Facebook. Hey, your mom told Aunt Karen you bailed on the truck after they gave it to you rent-free? What's going on? I didn't answer. 15 minutes after that, I got a long-ass text from my mom's sister, Karen herself. Something about being worried and how family is hard, but it's all we've got. She ended it with, you know your parents love you, right? Yeah, like they loved me enough to strip my name off a business I built from nothing. I didn't reply. That week was a full-on flood. 2 uncles, a cousin from Florida I hadn't heard from in 3 years, and even my mom's church friend Pam messaged me with some, hi, sweetie, your mom is heartbroken, just wanted to check in. I could see the story getting out. Not the truth, but the version my parents needed to tell so they wouldn't look like trash. Madison got overwhelmed. Madison walked away. Madison refused to help, even though we supported her dream. I knew exactly how they spun it. They had to move quick before word spread about the busted wiring, the leaking sink, the fridge they couldn't keep running. And the worst part? They were smart about it. They didn't come out and say I sabotaged anything. They just implied I was emotional, immature, selfish, like I flaked once things got hard. It pissed me off, but I stayed quiet. I watched from the sidelines, scrolling every time my phone lit up, letting the calls go to voicemail. The more I stayed silent, the more it rattled them. I could tell by how fast the outreach came. Rapid fire, like they were trying to plug holes in a sinking boat. They couldn't defend what they'd done. Not really. Not when the truck still wasn't operating and they had nothing to show for it except rotting produce and blown circuits. And now, instead of me running around cleaning up their mess, they were the ones scrambling. For once, they were the ones trying to hold the story together. I sat on my couch that night with a bowl of cereal and just stared at my phone as it buzzed again. This time with a message from someone I didn't even recognize. Is it true you just abandoned your family's business? I laughed, took a bite, let the message sit there, unread, let them panic. 3 days after I ignored that random message, Jenna called again. I didn't answer, but she followed up with a voice note this time, and I was too curious not to play it. You're not going to believe this, she started, her voice low like she was hiding in a bathroom. Your brother's fiancé is losing her mind. The food truck's got a roof leak. It rained yesterday, and apparently there's water dripping straight onto the prep counter. They found mold under the sink. Like actual mold. And now the generator won't even stay on for more than 10 minutes. She paused, then added, did you know about any of that? I didn't respond. Next day, Aunt Laura texted me. Just one line. Heard they can't afford repairs. What's going on? That one hit different. She was always the one who backed my parents no matter what, even when it was obvious they were full of it. If she was asking questions, cracks were starting to show. I didn't reply, didn't explain, just left it on read. From there, it started spreading. One cousin messaged me saying, your mom told us the truck was ready to go. Now it's sitting in the driveway with trash bags taped to the roof. What actually happened? Another one asked, wait, wasn't the whole thing your idea? That was the moment I knew. The story they built was falling apart without me having to say a damn word. Because it's one thing to lie about emotions or intentions. It's a whole different thing when physical evidence starts showing up. Water damage, power outages, mold that stinks through the cabinets. Their version of events couldn't hold up next to soggy drywall and busted wiring. And people started putting it together on their own. They remembered I was the one driving all over North Texas to pick up used equipment, that I spent months redoing the interior by hand, that I posted pictures of the build on Instagram with the caption, "Paid with my own money." One day at a time. I wasn't out there trashing anyone. I didn't post a tell-all. I didn't send one angry group text. I just stayed silent. And in that silence, the truth started making its way through the cracks. I found out later that my brother's fiance had planned to use the truck as a pop-up at their wedding, some grilled cheese and champagne thing. Cute idea. Until the health inspector showed up to a neighbor's complaint and shut it down before it even got off the driveway. Guess what else? Turns out my dad's buddy never sealed the prep sink drain properly. Black water had been pooling behind the cabinet for weeks. Now they're looking at a $5,000 repair bill just to make it roadworthy again. I sat on my porch that night with a beer and no one to impress. My name was off the paperwork, but not off the memories. Everybody knew who built that truck, and now everybody was watching it rot. I was finishing off that beer on the porch when my phone rang again. This time, it wasn't a cousin or an aunt. It was him. I let it buzz through the first time. Watched his name flash across the screen. Brian. Then it rang again. Then again. On the third try, I picked up. He didn't even say hi. Just jumped in, voice sharp and frantic. "What the hell did you do to the truck?" I leaned back in the chair, let the wood creak under me. "Excuse me?" "The roof's leaking, the prep sink smells like a damn swamp, and the generator shorts every time we plug in the freezer. And now they're saying it never even passed inspection." I waited a beat. "It didn't?" "What?" "You never filed the final health cert or the electrical approval." That was the next step. But Dad wanted to rush it and bring in his buddy instead of waiting for licensed work to finish. "You should have handled that stuff," he snapped. "That was your job. You were doing all the boring paperwork stuff." "Yeah, until you took over and I got pushed out." "You could have told someone," he yelled. "You could have finished the forms or filed something or, God, Maddie, this is sabotage." I stood up, phone still to my ear, eyes locked on the neighbor's fence line like it might stop me from exploding. "I paid for that truck. I picked every part. I spent 8 months building it while you were watching ESPN and pretending to care. The only reason it's falling apart now is because Dad got cheap and you were too lazy to double-check anything. I have a family to support." "There it is," I muttered. "Lisa 2.0. He went quiet. "You know," I said, "you guys never thought I'd actually walk away. I was supposed to keep doing the behind-the-scenes stuff while you stood there and played owner. You thought I'd keep making it look legit so you wouldn't have to." "You're being dramatic." "No," I said flatly. "I'm being accurate." He huffed into the phone, then hit me with it. "You're selfish." I smiled to myself. That was the word they always landed on when they ran out of ways to twist it. I didn't say anything else, just pulled the phone away from my ear and hit end. After I hung up on Brian, I figured the noise might die down. It didn't. If anything, it got louder. But different now. Not the same guilt trips or fake concern. These messages had a new edge, less confident, more careful. Cousin Danielle texted, "Did you really build the whole truck yourself?" Then Nick, who never says anything to anybody, messaged, "Did your dad give the truck away? Or was it yours?" I didn't answer either of them. Just let the notifications stack up, and I could feel it. The story was slipping out of my parents' hands. People were starting to put two and two together, and the math wasn't adding up. Another aunt wrote, "I had no idea you were the one who paid for everything." "I'm sorry if I misunderstood." Then came the vultures, the ones who pretended they were checking in but just wanted details. "So what really happened? Why did you leave? Is it true the truck's not even legal to use?" I kept my mouth shut, let it all sit there unread. Because silence, I was learning, can be louder than any explanation. And it freaked them out. They couldn't argue with what I wasn't saying. This wasn't new, though. That was the part that stung the most. My whole life, they covered for Brian. When he failed out of college, when he crashed the family car, when he got some girl pregnant and my parents wrote the check to make it go away, they always spun it, always gave him a softer landing. And me? I was the one who handled it. Quietly, cleanly. I fixed things. I stayed up late writing checks, canceling plans, solving problems that weren't mine. And they got so used to it, they thought it was part of the deal. But this time, I didn't lift a finger. I just watched. Then, late one evening, phone on silent, lights low, it rang. Grandma. I stared at the screen. She never called unless it mattered. I picked up. Hi. She didn't waste time. Tell me what really happened. No softness, no bias. Just her voice, steady and sharp. And something about the way she asked, like she already knew the answer, broke the wall I'd been holding up. So I told her. I laid it out piece by piece like I was reading off a receipt. How I found the truck myself, paid in cash, hauled it home with a rented trailer. How I worked 2 jobs and still came home and sanded rust off cabinets at midnight. How I picked every appliance, printed every form, handled every inspection until Dad stepped in with his guy. How I was told I could park it on their property and launch from there. That it was a family investment. But really, it was just a setup to hand it off to Brian without the paperwork getting messy. I told her I walked away from something I built with my bare hands, and they didn't even flinch. No apology, no shame. Just passed it over like it was some shared toy I was hogging. She didn't interrupt once, not a sigh, not a single question. Just that heavy silence she always gave when she was holding back real judgment. When I finished, she was quiet for a beat. Then she said, calm as ever, "That's low." I didn't respond. She added, "Sunday lunch. Come. Everyone's coming." I felt my stomach twist. "Grandma, I'm not trying to stir anything up." "You won't. They'll start something." "Let them," she said. "You don't need to say anything. Just be there. I don't want a scene." "I didn't ask you to make one," she said. "I asked you to show up. Sit at the table. Let them talk. Let them try." I leaned back into the couch, the phone pressed against my ear, trying to picture what that room would feel like. That table. All of them. The silence. The lies still clinging to the air like grease. But she wasn't wrong. They'd filled the space with their version for long enough. It was time I walked back into the room, not with a story, but with the truth sitting right behind me, daring them to speak first. "I'll come," I said. "Good," she replied. "And Maddie?" "Yeah? Don't wear armor." "You don't need it anymore." I pulled into Grandma's driveway 15 minutes late on purpose. I didn't want to be the first one in the room. Let them get comfortable first. The house smelled like roast chicken and baked mac, normal Sunday stuff. But the second I stepped through the door, the air shifted. Everyone paused just a beat too long before going back to their fake smiles and half-hearted small talk. I nodded at a few cousins, gave my aunt a short hug. Nobody looked me straight in the eye. My mom came over with that tight smile she uses when she's cornered. "We weren't sure you'd make it," she said, like I'd just been late to church and not cut out of my own business. "I said I'd come," I replied. That was all I gave her. We moved into the dining room, big table, too many people. My dad sat near the head, carving slices of chicken like nothing in the world was falling apart. My brother sat next to him, eyes glued to his plate, not saying a word. I took the seat across from Grandma. She gave me a little nod, calm, quiet, but firm. Lunch started off stiff. Chewing, clinking silverware, a few forced jokes about football and yard work. Nobody brought up the truck, until Grandma did. "So," she said casually, cutting into her green beans, "how's the food truck going?" The whole room froze for half a second. My dad didn't miss a beat. "Oh, just minor hiccups. Nothing we can't handle." Grandma wiped her mouth, looked at me. "Maddie, didn't you manage that project?" I set down my fork. "I did," I said. "I bought the truck, designed the layout, picked the equipment, got it street legal, or I was going to, before Dad replaced the licensed contractors with his friend from work." He scoffed. "We saved money." "And got mold, a leaking roof, and electrical that doesn't pass inspection," I said, calm as ever. "That generator shorts because it's wired wrong. That sink smells because the drain was never sealed. The truck never got cleared for use. It's a safety hazard." Dead silence. A cousin at the far end of the table blinked like she'd just come out of a daze. My aunt set her fork down. My brother turned bright red but still didn't look up. I didn't raise my voice, didn't cry, just said what was true. They told people I walked away from something they gave me. But they never gave me anything. I built it. They took it. Nobody said a word. Grandma kept eating like nothing had happened. I stood up slowly. Thanks for lunch, I said, grabbing my purse. My mom opened her mouth like she wanted to say something, but I didn't give her the chance. I walked out, steady, no drama, no yelling. But the story was out now, and it wasn't theirs anymore. I drove home from Grandma's with the windows down. No music, just the hum of the road. No text came in, no missed calls, no follow-ups. Not from my mom, not from my dad, not from Brian. And this time, the silence didn't hit like a punishment. It felt clean, still. Like a door finally clicked shut behind me. I didn't feel proud. Not exactly. There was no high from what I said, no rush. Just this quiet, steady calm, like I'd finally let go of something I didn't realize I'd been gripping so hard. For years, I really thought if I worked harder, if I showed up more, if I made myself useful enough, they'd see me as part of something. That I'd earn my place, not just as their daughter or sister, but as someone worth holding on to. I chased it so long, I didn't even notice how tired I was. But now, I didn't need an apology. Didn't need them to explain. I didn't need them to hurt or change or even understand. I just needed it to be over. My story made it into the room, and they had nothing to say back. No spin, no damage control. Just red faces and dropped forks and the truth sitting there between the biscuits and the mac and cheese. It was enough. I sat on my couch that night with the lights off, just watching the dark settle over my living room, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel owed, I didn't feel erased, I just felt done.